It's time to put the snapback in your drums. We teamed up with electronic music pioneer BT to bring you the instant drum layering effect that makes your beats hit different. Meet Snapback. Layer a transient or tail on top of any drum hit for punch, style and flair. And add missing groove and magic with our unique Snapback layer that places samples just before each hit. Powered by Cableguys world-class audio triggering. Samples by BT, Gold Baby, Virtual Riot and Cyclic, plus sample drag and drop, and controls to help you lock your layers in phase and slot them in the mix. First up, I'm excited to show you the magic Snapback layer. Note that the Snapback plugin is an effect, not an instrument. So whether you make your drums in audio or MIDI, whether you use stems or loops, whatever you use, you don't need to change your existing workflow. Just insert Snapback on a drum track. The plugin detects each hit using the same precise audio triggering from Shaperbox and Kickstart. The transient section layers a new sample on top of your drum hit's transient. I'll show you this in depth later, but let's turn this off for now. Before the transient comes the unique Snapback layer. But what on earth is a snapback? Well, it's a clever trick used by pro producers to give their drums style and flair at a certain type of thwack. Let me show you. Here is a drum hit from a sample pack. Take a look at the waveform. Notice how there's sound before the transient spike actually hits. The information leading into the transient gives the attack a certain knock and flavour. You'll find this in many professional drum samples, and you'll hear it in famous tracks. This extra information before the beat is what we call a snapback. But auditioning and editing snapbacks manually in your DAW is a real headache. For every sound you want to audition, you have to line it up by hand, shuffle track delays, trim sample lengths, adjust envelopes. It's a real pain. So I'm excited to say that Snapback solves all of this for the first time in a real-time effect. Let's open the Snapback section's sample menu. These specially designed samples are short snippets of noise, foley, reverse sounds, and textures. All the samples in this plugin are created by BT, Gold Baby, Virtual Riot, and Cyclic. The plugin uses look-ahead latency to place your chosen snapback sample in front of your drum hit. So it whips perfectly into your main hit every time. Use the short snapbacks to add a small bright whip into your kick drum. Now here's a quick pro tip. Before browsing snapback samples, set an attack value first. Then all the sounds you browse will fit your groove perfectly. Use a snapback to give sharp snares a softer, classier attack. Or a punchier thwack. And dial in the classic pre-shifted clap trick in seconds. Up next, here's how Snapback's transient section makes drum layering fast and fun. Adding a new layer on top of an existing drum sound is a pro trick for adding punch, vibe, sizzle and flavour in ways that EQ, compression or distortion cannot. But now you can forget all the fiddly track stacking and workflow hassle. Just insert Snapback on your drum channel. Again, each hit is detected by the audio triggering. Here in the transient section, I'll open the menu. These samples are professional layering tools designed specifically to enhance and bolster drums. Add snap to kicks and snares with our punchy clicks and analog transients. Extend dry snares with the sizzle, tail and room layers. Beef up hits with our body and punch components. And get creative with textures, foley and even voices. And if our expansive sound library isn't enough, you can import your own samples. Just drag and drop a sample onto a section to load it in. Click this button to save the imported sample to your user section. And you can also import entire folders of samples into your user section. See the Snapback manual for how to do this. Now let's look at a few more Snapback examples. We all know that sound selection is key, especially for drums. But even when you've chosen a good drum sound that fits your track, it might be missing something. That last 10% of magic that makes your track stand out in a unique way. And Snapback's sample library and fast workflow will give you that last bit of tasteful character and finesse. Here's an example. For the kick and clap in this track, I already chose decent sounds. But then I added these subtle snapback layers to give the kick and clap a tiny bit more pop and flavour. And another pro tip, shift click a layer's solo button to solo both layers. Pay attention to the kick and clap in the mix when I turn the plugins on and off. So far, I've only shown you Snapback's magic on kicks and snares, but the plugin will give you great results on potentially any sound. Brighten and sharpen hi-hats and percussion with new layers. Add layers to help synths, chords and instruments pop. Target and bolster hits within mixed loops. And don't be afraid to try the kick layers on snares and vice versa, they often work great. Next, let's look at the controls. Snapback allows you to shape your drum layers without overwhelming you with options. Click here to zoom in with detail mode. Then flip polarity, shift timing and/or adjust pitch to lock your source sound and layers in phase. To slot your layers in the mix, adjust attack and decay, pitch, high and low pass filters, width and pan. Turn down this control and the sample's volume will respond less to the input's dynamics. And to catch peaks, we've added a custom transient aware clipper limiter to Snapback's output. Switch to output mode to view the summed output signal. Then limit your combined source sound and new layers. And there are even more Snapback features to power up your layering workflow. If you need to fine-tune the audio triggering, open the trigger settings. Here you can set the threshold level. Choose from 3 triggering algorithms, and adjust detail to change the sensitivity for more or less triggers. You can also trigger from another audio sidechain source in your mix, or trigger Snapback's layers from MIDI notes. These options are useful when you want to trigger layers on certain hits and not others. You can even output Snapback's detected audio triggers as MIDI to create MIDI notes from your audio transients in real time. Refer to Snapback's expertly written manual for full details. Head to cableguys.com for more on Snapback and to try the demo. Snapback is available on its own or in the full Cableguys bundle that includes Shaper Box 3, Halftime, Filter Shaper XL, Curve 2 and MIDI Shaper. We hope you enjoy using Snapback as much as we've enjoyed making it.